This is Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley, and with me, with his wealth of expertise, is Mark Langley. This week, we're going to be looking at some horses that are all going under saddle. They all have a couple of issues which we're going to work through. One is a mare that can get her emotions really high, and her owner wants to take her to a show and different events, but wants to know how she can help tap into her if she gets really in a high state. I've got another horse that Mark's going to help understand a little bit more about why contact at a trot is leading to a lost impulsion. But we'll start off with a question that's come from Nicola from Australia, who has a brand new horse that she'd like some advice with. She has a horse that will not walk out through the gate. She wants to go trail riding on him, and the previous owners had a few problems. So what they used to do was get him to follow other horses. She's trying to take him out without anyone, just her and a horse. But she's finding that he will just keep walking backwards no matter how much leg pressure she uses. He won't move in the direction that she's directing his head or using the leg aids. When she tries to turn him around, he keeps walking forward even though his head is being directed to the left or the right. And he just does U-turns back to where she saddled him up. If she gets off and leads him some of the way and then tries to ride him, he does the same thing. Coming home, of course, he's absolutely fine, and she's fine if she can lead him. But when she's riding him, this is when she gets a bit of the battle. So she's just wondering, have you got any tips, Mark, to help her understand this horse a little bit better so she can get these riding out happening?
First thing, it sounds, there's that saying, you can only steal so many rides. If the previous owners used other horses to get that horse to travel out. I've gotten on lots of young horses over the years that just didn't bother about the saddle, didn't bother about having a rider, and they weren't gonna, I didn't need to do a heap of education to sit on them. But if I just got on those young horses and followed other horses around, and I sat on that horse and rode around, then I'd pretty well say the horse is unstarted, because I haven't educated the horse. All I've done is stolen rides and just went with the other horses where they wanted to go, just like a pony trek sort of thing. And as I say, it's easier to get on a horse if they're fairly calm and can carry a saddle fine. It's harder to educate them. Education is where everything is. That's the steering, that's the accelerator, that's the problem solving skills, the learning to be away from the other horses and function, with you more connected and stuff like that. So, I'm going to give you a few answers, but the biggest answer is your horse needs starting from the scratch. It can carry a rider and a saddle, but it's uneducated. So
So it's not a lack of confidence? Or is that the same thing?
Well, lack of confidence comes through lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And of course a horse will follow the path of least resistance, and that is also mental resistance. So if it doesn't want to solve problems and it's not very confident and would rather be with the other horses, it's always going to go back to the other horses. And yes, so it is a lack of confidence, most definitely, but it's a lack of it being able to think for itself, and it uses the other horses for all its confidence. But if you squeeze or steer or do anything, you have to feel some sort of response, not just bend and go in a straight line and things like that. So the two areas I'd work a lot on is go back to a belly rope, teach that horse to lead to the feel of the belly rope. So if the horse is just blocking out the belly rope, I'd give it a bump and say, hey, I'm using the belly rope, listen to it until, and there's plenty of belly roping videos on the membership, wake up the rib cage and then follow the feel in that forward direction with the feel of a belly rope until the horse is activated, searching, and you can see it blink and think when you pull on that belly rope and it actually searches and goes forward. Teach it what legs mean through starting with a rib cage activation through the belly rope and how to lead through the belly rope, and then then teach it how to steer again. You know, whether you put the long reins on it, teach it to back up, do circles, so you constantly, every time you move around your horse in the long reins, it can move softly between the reins. Teach it to lead up, so you can, when you lead it up, it can jog up really nice. You know, start to teach it to bend and, you know, do hindquarter yield, so you do flexion, and then you lift up that rope to the wither, and like this is on the ground, and the horse releases the hind and moves around in a circle. You know, send the horse out in a straight line, lead it back to you with the long rope so it can follow that open rein. And when you get on it, before you take it anywhere away from anything, make sure that in its most comfortable place it can steer and go forward to legs. So you do your one rein start. If they just bend their head around and just keep their leg at your boot, I'll just keep lifting on the rein, rocking it, maybe clucking until the horse breaks free in the feet.
No legs.
No legs. Sometimes you can bump a little bit with legs, but if they're a bit dull in the ribs, you're kind of wasting your bump. Mm-hmm. And until that horse can lead around in that one rein start and follow the reins, not bend and go through the shoulders. If they do decide to bend and go through the shoulders, sometimes I'll just pick up two reins and say, not available, back up, try again. So I'm not trying to make that feeling available, because then they've learnt to do it. They will do it. What a horse does is what it learns, or what we allow it to do is what it learns. So I'd really work on that one rein start, and then in the safe area where the horse is not having to leave its friends, or I'd know that I can pull the rein, the horse follows it, I can take two reins, the horse follows two reins backwards, I squeeze it up, I can walk and trot it, I can squeeze it up and it really pushes out nice and it flows. Then I know the legs work and the steering works. Then I might think about taking it out of the yards away from the other horses. But it's got to be pretty good in a safe environment before you use it as a trail horse. Otherwise, the only way you can trail ride it is just follow other horses. But
you've got a problem. If you're saying that it doesn't understand the reins, feel, legs, aid, rein aid, then out on the trail, if something happens, if something goes wrong, you've got no control, presumably, on a horse.
All you've got is hoping that the horse will just pull up with the other horses and stay in a herd.
But if you're by yourself, it's dangerous. Okay.
Yeah. And so basically, if that horse panics, that this is the catch. Like I could give you all these little kind of methods of trying to lure that horse's brain into leaving the other horses.
But it's not
ready. But at the end of the day, if that horse spooks and I've allowed you to think, or like I could say, walk your horse out for 500 metres and then get on it to trick it away from the other horses, whatever.
Yes.
Like I could give you all these little kind of tricks, but at the end of the day, when something spooks that horse, it's going to go, well, I don't listen to the reins when I'm, when I'm not really worried, when I'm only a bit worried. It's not going to listen to the reins or anything when it's really worried, and you'll probably you'll have a fast track to back home.
Yeah, because there is a train of thought out there that if you just spend a lot of time walking with your horse, you can help build up that trust, which might help it leave the yards. But you're just saying no education, and of course, education, when you do things in the way that you do, sets them up to increase that trust anyway. So a lot more groundwork. So Nicola, not quite the answer you've obviously, but I have to say though, if you've got a horse that you've only just bought, and even though Mark's saying it doesn't have a lot of education underneath it, it's carrying you safely. You sound like you feel quite okay on it, and you sort of have a higher expectation of it, which makes me feel that it's giving you the signals that it's pretty sound-minded. Imagine this horse with this mindset, educated. It's going to be a cracker. I mean, it's going to be, hopefully. I mean, it sounds exciting to me, the prospect that you've got. So, I hope that helps, give you a bit more direction on the way that you've got to go. Let's go on to the next question. And this is a mare as well that's come through from Helen. She's been using your videos, and she feels that her mare is progressing really well. She's come from a trainer who rode her in spurs just before she bought her. And so she's been working through her being paranoid of energy, being a release hunter, and a very strong gazer. She's really happy with the progress that they've made. In fact, they've been going so well that she's understanding the legs and reins. But now she's got this scenario where she's trying to add a little bit of contact at the trot using a side pull. What she's found is that her mare straight away arched her neck and lost impulsion. It's almost like Helen says she thought she had to be in a certain frame, and she sort of dumped all her weight on her forehand. So she's just wondering, Mark, if you've got any tips on what she should be doing to get her beyond this particular point.
Yeah, she's the horses that have been fast-tracked into contact and roundness, which is not necessarily collection. They just kind of make them kind of look round in the front, but the rest of the body may not be doing what it's supposed to. Is usually I've got spurs. I'm going to kind of bump the horse a little bit, get it to kind of break in the pole and bend in the neck and come into the reins, but I've got spurs to keep the horse going forward. So then you end up with this sort of horse that breaks and drives its head in, but without spurs, they will start to slow down, because it's not just natural for a horse, especially still green, to just want to bend their head and keep going forward. They're going to go, I might have to slow down. So it sounds if she's still breaking in the pole and bending a bit too far in, you need to do more sort of lift and back up. So what I would do is walk, lift on the reins, and put an upward feel on the reins. When you put an upward feel on, you'll feel how much she's driving her head down. If you just go back to the saddle pommel with low reins for the backup, because of the angle of the rein, you won't feel her head go down, because you won't get that, she's pulling my rein straight down. So because the angle of the rein, you'll feel how much she's pushing down. So pick up the reins a little higher for your backup, and if she pushes down, say, don't put your head down there, and you might just give a quick up pull and say, not available. Like, don't go down the staircase to the dungeon. It's not available. And then she'll bring her head back up. Don't go straight. Don't go not available back up. Just let her bring her head back up again, and then pick up the reins quietly from a loose rein again. Pick up quietly and let her see what she does. If she goes down to the dungeon, not available. And when she lifts a little, then draw your reins back and see if she'll lift and back up until she's in a habit of lifting, and you'll feel the wither lift a bit, and she'll just back up and do enough backing that you can feel the jaw loosen and the head hang and the base of the neck loosen, but she's hanging in balance as she's backing and thinking backwards. The ears should be starting to go backwards. And then when you feel the head hang in balance and the feet moving backwards in a nice 2-beat rhythm, she's starting to sort of softly find her balance point in the backup. So then that rein pressure means lift and back up. And then you're going to say now if I do all that, when I want contact, she's going to want to back up, and I'm going to go, yeah, well, too bad. You need a good backup first, and you need the horse to find a nice balance point and use its hindquarter to sort of counteract the riding that she's had. And then there is a way of getting a horse to ride into contact where I use a shoulder yield, and I will pick up the inside rein, and that's an indirect rein that shifts the wither up and over. You might see that in some videos, and some new videos we're bringing out, so we've got a bit more of that. And if the horse can bend and shift the wither over, you shift the wither one way and then you shift it the other. And as you're shifting it, you're slowly working that horse into carrying a little bit of a frame where you're giving a little less space on that outside rein, or the rein that slows them down. So you've got your lifting, bending rein, which is moving the wither over, and that other outside rein will just catch the horse a little bit, and it will become the new steering rein, and the horse bends the other way, and you move the wither one way and the other until the horse is bending loosely all the way through its neck, in its head, and it's bending one way and the other, and the wither's moving the opposite way of the head, and it just does a little kind of like a wiggle from side to side. And then in that position, you start to find your point where they'll just round and walk forward a little bit. You'll have to find that spot, and you have to be able to gather them up at a walk and just walk them into contact before you even think about trotting them into contact. I just had a horse recently with a really braced, hollow horse. It was really frightened, ridden in spurs, but more hollow and head up sort of thing. And she just did her last rides of starting to get him to ride into contact, and we had some really nice, him start to really shape up and find his straight line in contact. But you could see from the horse that we saw months and months ago to now, he's using his whole body in contact. You can see his hindquarter come into contact and shape up, pick up his back. If we did it too quickly, he just would have been hollow, trailing out in the back end and dropping his nose in. But that was a development, and it took time. you don't need to shape them up in the trot straight away. As long as they can steer nice, balance nice in the turns, hindquarter yield back up, start get some lateral work and stuff like that. If you get all that really well established, then riding into contact will come. But what will happen is you're doing it on a balanced horse, not trying to get contact on a horse that's still strung out.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, there's some good tips with what you've got to do there, Helen. Last question for today, Mark, comes from Em. Got that wrong. She has been to a few of your clinics with her piebald Brumby, who must be quite a sight. Not many piebald Brumbies out there. She says that you've worked with this particular mare. She's had trouble regulating her emotions. One particular clinic, you let her go in the arena to help sort herself out. Did some liberty work. Now she's been making good progress at home, and Em would like to take her to some outings, shows and a club. But she'd like to know, how can she best help her when they're out if her emotions get too big and she doesn't have anywhere to turn her loose? What other strategies can she use?
Well, the reason we turned her loose was to experiment, because just a bit of context on this mare, because she's a pretty special little Brumby, because she'd been through a lot of homes before Em got her. I think it might have been about 6 homes.
Gosh.
So you can imagine the style of horse she is. She'd be like, oh, this is too much for me. Next home, next home, next home. She was a very intense, very, very aware, hyper-focused, everywhere sort of horse with a very strong personality, I guess. Could be very pushy, very, but just a troubled horse that had I believe everyone's had a go at a bit of horsemanship or whatever they thought they knew on or learned off YouTube on her, and went, oh, this is not working, get rid of her. And Em's been the one that's sort of stuck with us, so it's really sort of honourable credit to her to sort of to be able to work through it. And we've had some really nice results with this mare. We've had some soft rides with Em on her where she's sort of starting to regulate a lot better. But like a mare like her, you have to be on your you got to be fairly spot on for some time until she owns everything herself and she starts to sort of do it herself. The liberty work was there so we could actually just let her go, give her space, and see if she can come back into her own space in the vicinity of people, and not be such a target orientated horse that just targets the last place of safety, or and start to process her environment. And she did that really well. That was to see if she could do it, because all the training she would have had, all the bad training she would have had before we started working with her, she will feel more trapped in a halter and not self-regulate very well, because, like I say, it's, if there's been a lot of trouble and trauma and pulling and entrapment of the mind, every time you put the halter on and say, I have you in a rope now, you add a level of another layer of anxiety, because the horse is actually carrying something that has been the thing that's not allowed it to run away, the thing that's made it go in the floats that it didn't want to be in. It's the thing that people have hung on to them with when they needed a drench and all that. And so all these years of having these kind of conflicts and entrapment in a halter make them self-regulate less. So the liberty experiment is, what do you like without the halter on? Can you do it, or you're just going to be off your trolley and run around because you got freedom? And if we put the halter on, does that change the dynamics? So you're going to have a halter on her, but we've done enough with her now to start to stand quietly with the rope, let go of strong thoughts, teach her to search in a rope. So all the things that you've taught her to do in a rope has helped her trust the halter. So you're just hoping that she feels just as able to self-regulate in the halter as at liberty. So you'll still do the things that, that I've shown you before, which is, just give her an alternative. If she's a little bothered, maybe get her let go of a thought, maybe follow a feel, do something a little different, make sure she's grounded and centered in the halter, and you just have to work through those things. You'll know when you take her to something how she's going, but yeah, you can't let her off. You can give her space, you can give her a bit more room in a halter. You can just have her at a distance, not always close to you when you're going through different spaces, so she learns to process those spaces in her own space, opposed to handing it over to us and avoiding it. And just generally just work on, letting go of the strong thoughts, centering and feeling fairly connected with herself and also have a connection with you.
Do you give her something to do when she gets?
It's hard to say what to do. So something I do when I get close to the space that's going to make them sort of, not regulate. The two things I tend to do is if she's kind of looking away and she's kind of really hyper focused, I'll get her attention, whether it be banging the leg, put a bump in the rope, step to the side, and just get her to reset a little. If she pushes the thoughts through me, I might just pick up my hat, take my hat off, and just block the thought and say, hey, maybe look away, think backwards. I might get her to back up a little bit. I might just press her eyes a little bit with my hat, take my hat off, and just press her eyes and just say, don't stare through. Just use your rearview mirrors, back up a little, breathe, reset a little bit, and just do little exercises like that to just get her to reset, stand in her space, and just give her some time to think. Other times, if you're having trouble and she's not resetting, I may even go just to, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to walk somewhere. And I might get busy, and that's worked really well with some horses too, because if you're trying to get them to sort of quiet and recenter, but it's too much for them, then sometimes I just go for a fast walk, and then I go, hang on, I forgot something, I've got to go over here, hang on, I might have to go that way. And the horse is like, where are you going? What are you going? I can't keep up with you. What's going on here? And then all of a sudden, sometimes, because you're not trying to block them or contain them, you're just going somewhere, and they can't quite predict it, and they're getting left behind, and they can't get in front of you, because every time they get in front of you, you turn and go, I think I might go this way, and they go, I'm still behind you, I can't keep up. And then all of a sudden they go, I better rate you and stay with you, because I'm going to lose you if I don't. And that's the thing you can do if you're really having a struggle, getting her to stop and reset, as I'll go to that, and I'll just kind of take her for a walk, and you might have to just get your joggers on and walk her for, half an hour. But as I say, it's not just walking with her in front of you, it's you have to keep up with me. Come on, hurry up. Oop, no, you just went in front of me. I turned my back on you. I'm going to go this way. Until she's like, oh, gee. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, hang on. I better stop here because I can't remember what I was going to do. And then you just watch her and she'll be like, I just might wait too, I think, because, this might be a good idea. Cause
so the attention comes on you.
It becomes their responsibility to sort of rate you a little bit more, because if they don't, they'll lose you. And that can be really effective when they're a little bit too fast. And sometimes even when you've got to take them through a space where there's a lot going on and there's other horses and you don't want to be standing in there, you just go and you walk as fast as you can.
Super. That's hopefully given you some things to work on. Not an easy situation, but it sounds like you've come a long way. So well done on that. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Mark. You've been up since 4:00 this morning, so you're doing an incredible job. We appreciate it, and we'll be back next week answering more questions. See you then.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody.
The accurate insights and solutions that Mark Langley gives are at the forefront of emotive horsemanship globally. You can learn them for yourself through his supportive online membership. Check it out with a 7-day free trial. marklangley.com.au